Hey guys, welcome to my channel. So today I wanted to make a video about some of the comments and concerns that people have had about my book, especially the reviews. So before we get into that, I wanted to just tell you guys how the story even came to be. So pretty much my entire life since I was little, I was obsessed with angels and guardian angels. And I would often wonder if I had a guardian angel. My type on paper, like my physical type, are blondes, and this is important, and I'll get to that why. So before I wrote Falling Light, I would get dreams about this boy visiting me, and every time he would come to me, he would give me a red rose, and he so happened to be blonde. So I'm like, okay, I call him the blonde haired boy for my dreams. But then every time that I would receive the rose, like I would take the rose out of his hands, I would literally get night terrors, if that makes sense. Like I would wake up, but I'm still sleeping, but I would feel something lying on my back or on my chest, and I can't move, I can't speak. I'm just paralyzed basically. So now I'm like, okay, I really think that I might be possessed by a blonde hair demon, if that makes any sense. After a few weeks of the night terrors, I tell my friend this and I tell her, I think I'm possessed by a demon. And she's like, okay. So she has an aunt or a friend of an aunt who like does readings and it's like spiritual. So she's like, we're gonna go see my aunt. And I'm like, okay. So we go to her aunt and immediately I tell her that like I've been having like these night terrors and I can't move, I'm paralyzed. And I tell her that the demon is always like blonde. And I think that the demon is like trying to, what is it called? Like beguiled? Is that the word beguiled me? Because the demon knows that my type is blonde. So he pretty much comes to me as blonde just so I can take the rose from him so that he paralyzed me, if that makes any sense. So I tell her, and she does like this reading. I'm not really sure what she did, I can't remember, but she goes to me and she says, "You're not possessed." And I was like, "Are you sure? Because why is he always blonde and why is he always giving me a rose? I really think that I'm possessed." She looks at me and says, "You're just shallow." And I'm like, oh my God, like, what does that even mean? Shallow? Because this was the first time anyone has ever called me shallow. And I'm like, I don't know what that even means. She's like, you have to look beyond a person hair color. And I'm like, okay, well, do I look at the color of their eyes? Because I actually don't care if they have blue or brown eyes. And she goes, no, you just have to look inside of a person, like from within. And I'm thinking, how do I look inside of a person if the first thing I see is their face? So I ask her again, am I possessed? And she's like, no, you're just shallow. And I'm like, okay. So I go home and I'm freaking out. And I go to my mom and I tell her, pray for me. I'm shallow. It worked because the night terror stopped and I wasn't getting these nightmares anymore. So a few months passed and I said to myself, I really want to write a book. So if you guys don't know, I've been writing like pretty much my entire life. I would write a book, I would start, then I would stop, and then I would write another one, then I would stop. So I pretty much been writing, but I never really published anything. So around this time, I said to myself, I really want to write a new book. And then one night, the idea just came to me. I'm like, why don't I write about angels and demons? Because I'm obsessed with angels and I literally thought that I was possessed by a demon. So that's how the story came to be. Falling Light is based on Christian mythology. That is angels, fallen angels, demons, and then darklings, which is the offspring of a mortal woman and a fallen angel. Okay, so now I want to talk about some of the comments that I've been getting. A lot of reviews have been saying that my book is so similar to Twilight and it reminds them of Twilight. And I just wanted to make it clear. Well, I wanted to let everyone know that I actually never read Twilight. And I know that Twilight was like really, really popular in like the biggest thing ever, but I've never actually read Twilight because I'm actually not into vampires and werewolves. Pretty much, I hate the smell of blood. It makes me want to gag. And vampires, they drink blood all day. So I'm pretty sure like their breath would stink. And then werewolves, I've never really been into werewolf because when a man changes, well, when he transforms into a wolf, he's on all fours. And I'm a tall girl. Like I'm 5'10, 5'11 without any heels. But then with heels, I'm like 6 feet. So if he's on all fours, I'm gonna have to look down at him, and I just can't do that. I have to look directly or I have to look up. I can't look down. So I've never been into werewolves. I've never been into vampires. I just don't find them hot. So that's why I never read Twilight. But after so many reviews have been saying my book reminds them of Twilight, I actually read a few pages and I can see the similarities. Like it really does. The writing style is like alike. But to be quite honest, I take it as a compliment because Twilight was so successful, is so successful, and it is a really good book. So I don't mind people saying that my book reminds them of Twilight. The next concerns that I wanted to discuss is that I've been getting messages about people saying that my book isn't diverse, and there's a reason for that. I'm gonna admit that I'm not the most well informed or educated person on certain topics, and I didn't want to write about something that I'm not well read on, or I'm just not well informed. And I didn't want to create characters based off on a trend, if that makes any sense, and have them there just because it's trending to have such characters. So I'll explain. So when I first heard the word pansexual, I honestly thought it meant sexual attractions to pots and pans. But then I'm like, that doesn't sound right. So I researched the word, like I Googled it, and I still don't really understand what it means. And then another word, asexual, I thought, well, I think asexual means sexual attraction to the same letter alphabet as yours. So, like, if you identify as A, then you're sexually attracted to other people who also identify as A. And then if you identify as B, then you're attracted to people who also identify as B, and so forth. I think if that's what it means, I'm not really sure. And then being fluid. Okay, so I think fluid as you're like a river and there's a current, and that current moves in the direction of the wind, and then your sexuality is like a little sailboat. You can't control which direction the sailboat moves. It moves in the direction of whatever that the wind is blowing. So in a way, this is how I visualize it. Your sexuality is the sailboat, and it just flows and it moves, and there's no boxing you in. And then for transgender, I know what transgender means. It means like I envision like a cocoon becoming like a beautiful butterfly, and you like transform, you transcend, like this beautiful transformation, you know? So I know about these things, but I'm not well educated or well informed, and I didn't want to create characters and then write them based on a stereotype, or I didn't want to cultural appropriate anyone. Like cultural appropriation is when you take on someone else's identity for your own personal gain, and I didn't want to do that because I don't think it's cool to benefit from someone else's identity, especially if you don't even identify as it. So I didn't want to stereotype anyone, and I didn't want to cultural appropriate anyone. So that's why there isn't that much diverse in my book. I know that there are so many other books, so many good books that are from authors who not only are well read and well educated on certain topics, but they also identify as these topics. So I think they're the best people to write about such things. But regardless of how or what you identify as, my book is pretty much based on light versus darkness. Like, in a world that is full of darkness, you can be in a room full of darkness, surrounded by darkness. There's always light, and you can be that light. And I want people to pretty much receive the message of finding one's inner light. And that's pretty much what my book is all about. It's about a girl named Rosalind and her journey of suffering from anxiety, depression, and so many other things. Friendship, love, first love, breakups, and her finding the inner light within her. Okay guys, so I hope you guys enjoyed my video. I will be making a part 2 to this, so stay tuned.